Well, guys, welcome back to Spiller's Sports Show tonight, and I have one very special guest for me. It has a lot of meaning for me. He is my cricketing idol growing up in the great cricket far north Queensland. I would like to welcome one of Queensland's ball's finest, Australian one-day international player, Jimmy Maher. Welcome aboard, Jimmy.
Thanks, Bella. Good to be here, mate.
Mate, I'm very honoured to do this interview and share this story with you, mate. Being a far north Queensland boy, I know you were born in Innisfail, grew up with Vinda, spent a lot of time around far north Queensland. You represented far north Queensland as a junior cricketer, mate. I know it means a lot to you. So tell us how your cricketing story all started, mate, back in them early days in the 80s.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I know. It's amazing how fast it all goes. It's sort of, it's still my home, as you know, far north Queensland. I love it when I get up there and, Cairns, Babinda, Innisfail, wherever it is, all of those places are close to my heart. And obviously family have all born and grown up there. But, dates back decades and decades and decades. So, yeah, mate, it was, I suppose, I guess growing up at, first of all in Gordonvale, playing a lot of cricket, at Ali Park there. That was probably where it all began for me. Junior cricket began certainly there anyway. And my old man at the time, Warren, was playing for Mulgrave at that stage in senior cricket. And yeah, mate, I suppose from there, when they had the news agency in Gordonvale, we then went to Sports World in Cairns, and we were there for a while, and obviously, flush with great facilities there with those three brilliant grounds. And, A-grade cricket was great to watch. And, playing junior cricket then, either Ali Park in Gordonvale for rep cricket on the weekends, and then you're playing all your junior cricket at Endeavour Park in Cairns or at the high school. So, mate, I still remember it like it was yesterday. And I suppose as a young fella, I always, remember wherever I was always following the Sheffield Shield closely. And as we know, Queensland at that stage had never won anything. And, I suppose cricket, with a lot of other sports. I mean, I played a lot of sport growing up in FNQ, Aussie rules, rugby league, cricket, tennis. But probably cricket was the one, that I loved the most and got the most enjoyment out of. Probably being a team sport, and that sort of thing. So, one thing led to another, and poked me way up the ladder and got picked for FNQ teams, Cairns, FNQ, and then, your Queensland rep teams. And then I got an opportunity to go to Nudgee College in 1990 to finish school. Well, that's what I told everyone I was going there for school, but really I was just going there to get better at cricket. But yeah, I suppose I left Nudgee and ended up going to the Australian Institute of Sport. And I was actually playing third grade at that stage for Norths in Brisbane. Just sort of put the runs on the board, went from third grade to second grade to first grade, and had to get big hundreds to do that in those days. And then I remember playing for the AIS, and Dirk Wellham retired for Queensland in 1993, and then I got the call up. So it was a dream come true. And I suppose you think about all the things that happen along the way. And I think one of the biggest learning curves for me growing up, Spiller, was I didn't get picked in an under-13 FNQ team. Admittedly, I was a bit young at the time. I might have been under-14 team. And I'd probably scored enough runs to get picked, but it was sort of that knockback that I suppose I look back now and I think, geez, that really made me more hungry and want to do better. So I had two choices at that stage. I could go and kick cans and be shitty with the world, or I could have, gone out and scored more runs and proved them wrong. So
know how you feel there. I know how you feel there, Jim. Yeah,
that was
uncle.
That was a good learning curve.
I experienced the same. I represented FNQ from under 12s right through to 19s, mate. And when it come to the under 15s, the great guru Kevy was our coach, and he dropped me that year. I was extremely hurt at first, but I didn't take it personal, and he told me to go away and work on a few things. Exactly right. It definitely made me hungry, and I learned a lot from a young person as well, how to be a bit more resilient and deal with, a little bit of hardship. And he was a great mentor, Kevin. Most favourite coach I've had in cricket. Obviously, you've had many great times with the Guru. I still remember, Jimmy, going to my first state carnival back in '88, and you were playing for Far North Queensland under-16s. That was back at Redcliffe. I still remember that as plain as day. And when you guys got announced in the Queensland team, sitting there as an 11-year-old watching, wow, how good's that?
Yeah, it's amazing. It was a great feeling. And I suppose the biggest thrill I had was I remember telling my old man when I was 10 I was going to play with Alan Border, and he laughed at me. But I think not just that, but, sort of 8 years later, and you make your debut for Queensland, and you think, mum and dad, my brothers, sisters, family, they sacrificed a lot of things for me to actually get there that day. So I really owed them. I owed them something, and to be able to, and to have them all down there playing at the game when we played that day, made me debut, was something really special.
1993, wasn't it, against Tasmania? Was it at the Gabba?
Yeah, at the Gabba. Yep, 1993. Yep. It was full house too, because we had all of our Australian players were available. So AB, McDermott, Rackham, and all those sort of guys. Ian Healy were all in the team. So it was, we had a big crowd. And Tasmania, obviously, David Byrne was playing, and a young Ricky Ponting and Michael Di Benito, Chris Matthews. They had a really good side as well. So it was a good game.
I do remember watching that day clearly, mate. I really do, because like you said, you grew up idolising Alan Border. There was a bit of a historic moment. You ran him out that day, didn't you?
I did, before it faced the bloody ball. So it wasn't the best way to start my career. But yeah, it was just, I was so excited at the time, and I just got caught up in the emotion. We were flying. We were when I came into bat, I batted at 6 in those days as a young bloke. When I came into bat, we were 4 for 298 in a 58. With four overs to go. Which, Spiller in 1993, that was an enormous score in a one-day game. It's not as big anymore, but I remember that clearly. And I came out to bat, and AB was at the other end. Obviously, the ball had fallen, and I thought, wow. So not only am I making my debut, and then he's Australian. Wow, it's So I really got caught up in the emotion of that, and I'd never sort of really experienced a big crowd before, like the Gabba was, and the chants and all that sort of stuff. And looking around the field, and you see, I'm batting with Alan Border, David Burns at the other, in the gully. I said, all these guys' posters are still on my wall, So it was really surreal. And I suppose I just got caught up in the whole event. And Rod Tucker bowled the ball, and AB hit it to cover, and I just took off like a shot out of a gun, and I'd passed him, I reckon, before the ball got to cover point. And that was all she wrote. He was run out. To this day, he stood out of his ground that day to make sure I wasn't the one run out, because obviously it was a pretty noble thing for him to do, to let me not be run out without facing the ball on my big day. So I'll never forget that he did that, and we've become great mates ever since. And
did he ever say something to you after the game or during the game in the dressing room? Give you a few little words, mate, or did he just let it ride?
Yeah, mate. It took me about half an hour to get off the ground, because I was not out at the end of the day. I ended up getting 26. I don't reckon I'd have got. I could have batted for 4 days, because I didn't want to go back in the dressing room. So there's no one was going to get me out. So I remember. I said to Ian Healy, because I'd known him, more than I knew the others, because I played club cricket at Norths with him a little bit. But I remember, saying to him, I'm not in any hurry to get back in the dressing room. They call this bloke Captain Grumpy. What's he going to say to me? And but he was great. Like, I walked up to him and apologised, and he took his gear off and sort of looked up and said, "No worries, young fella. It's all good. You were faster." I think he said, "You're something like you're a lot faster, younger, and fitter than me. So it was better that you were out there and not me." And that was sort of, I really that meant a lot to me. And if he didn't do that, it would have been a long way back, I reckon. So full credit to AB for how he handled it. And we went on to win the game quite comfortably.
I think if I remember clearly, you hit a couple of bombs that day too, Jim.
Yeah, got lucky with a couple. As I said, I was that scared about getting out.
I think one was heading for the commentary box, actually. That's how clearly I remember the game.
Yeah, one broke the glass of the commentary box up the top. So it was, got a couple of lucky hits.
So, mate, 93, you make the debut for Queensland. You have a couple good years. tell us about 1995. You break the big drought. You bring home that holy grail for the Queensland Bulls. How special was that? To me, I'll never forget it. I thought it was the changing of the guard for Queensland cricket. And I happened to be in Brisbane at the time. And I remember celebrating with my great mate, Wadey Fraser, at City Rollers that night.
Yeah, well, mate, it was an amazing thing. Like the year before, 93, we actually ran last. But if we had won the last game, we would have been in the final. That's how close it was. So I'd sort of experienced the worst end of it. And then the next year, obviously, you know, we won the Shield at the Gabba and the duck was broken. But, mate, it was just an incredible feeling and an amazing thing to be in that team to break the drought because, you know, so many great sides, as we know, that had played for Queensland for all those years, 69 years prior to that. And we couldn't get over the line for whatever reason. So, I feel really privileged and honoured to just be, you know, lucky, right place at the right time to be in that team. But I didn't really have a sense of how big it was until, you know, it was getting close to the start of the game and then definitely the end of the game because the people at the Gabba and the faxes and things on the wall, you sort of think, this is just huge. Like we're in this massive dressing room and there's not one space on the wall that you can fit anything else. There's that many faxes and well-wishers. And old people that you'd cross walking into the ground that were in tears, you know, hoping like nothing else that we'd win the Shield before they'd pass away, you know, walk into the ground with Carl Rackham on the last day and, you know, an old man and lady sitting at the Cricketers Club entrance and in tears. They were 85, 90 years old. So we've never seen Queensland win the Shield. Please,
good, mate.
You know. So that was that sort of made you know even more special. I started to think, wow, this is bigger than what I could even imagine. So, but mate, again, to have your family there and everyone watching, your brothers, your sisters, your mum and dad, and you see the whole Gabba crowd. It was just you know bathed in maroon for 5 days, and Rupert on the hill just went nuts for 5 days. He didn't shut up, and the whole town just went absolutely nuts. And
I'm sure Warry would have put a few good beers away, Jimbo.
Yeah, he did. He didn't need us to win the Shield final to do that, but he certainly enjoyed the party as everyone did, and it just went on and on and on. And then the ticker tape parade a few days later, where just the city mall was just chock a block. I've never seen so many people in my life. We were in these cars, these open convertible cars, which I'd never even seen one before, let alone been in one. And then you'd look up all the buildings, just, you know, staff hanging out of their windows with streamers and, you know, well done Queensland, all that sort of. It was just an amazing feeling.
Well, that was really the start of success. I know you're very honoured to be part of, mate. Did you win 5 or 6 titles with the Bulls? Because you went on a run there. You won 3 years in a row. I think that was from 99. We won 3 in a row,
and then we won 94-5, then 96-7 in Perth when we were long on underdogs to win that game, but we won in Perth, which is awesome. And then we won 3 in a row, 99, 2000, 2001. And then, mate, we had a couple of finals we lost in between that, and then we won again in 05-06. So it was 6 all up for me, and I think now we've won 9 as a state, or 8 as a state. So
you also got to win a couple one-day titles, mate, as well.
And won about 5 of those, I think. So it was good times.
Let's talk 2003, mate. I think that's when you become Queensland captain. Is that right? You made your debut as Queensland captain in 03?
No, 2001-2, I think I became captain.
Okay. Is that the season where you set a record? I believe you set a record, the first man ever to score 1,000 runs. Back then, it changed from Sheffield Shield. To me, it'll always be the Sheffield Shield to Pura Cup. You scored 1,000 runs in a season. You're on fire. Yeah,
that was a good year. We to us, it was always a Sheffield Shield as well, and we still got that awarded. So, mate, it was just one of those years. You know, you sort of, in those days, if you didn't score 750, 800 runs as a top order batsman, you wouldn't have lasted very long. So, you know, and again, I think that was probably a product of the system. We had a really good, you know, regional cricket was really strong, club cricket was really strong, and then Shield cricket you know, you had blokes getting 800. There'd be 10 people getting 800 to 1,000 runs a year in across the states, and those guys couldn't even get picked for Australia at that stage because the guys playing for Australia were going so well. So, mate, it was just one of those years. It was a great year. We won the comp. Yeah, and I mean, that's all you could do at the time, is try and score as many runs as you possibly could, and not hope. But if someone buggered up for Australia, then an opportunity would come up. So, but it was great times and really hard, tough cricket, Shield cricket. And then when you played club cricket, the times you played club cricket throughout the season, they were hard games, because everyone was trying to get it in the Shield sides, and it was just a really good conveyor belt. So. Very fortunate playing that time and played against and with a lot of great players.
I've put something a little together here, mate. I'm going to bring up on the screen here.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of footage here for us. I've got some pictures, mate.
Yeah.
Have a look at this little baby. Got the first Shield win there. Got myself there when we won the Fusion Boys at the Gabba.
Country Challenge, that's right. Very good.
That's it, mate. How good a night was that? It was something I'll never ever forget, mate.
That was awesome. I really enjoy that now. It's a great thing for country cricketers to be able to get the chance to come to the Gabba and play, for the Bulls Masters Country Challenge.
I got a little picture here scoring another 100 for Queensland. Third highest scorer for Queensland, I believe, just ahead of the great Matty Hayden. I think he sits on fourth.
No, I think I'm second. Laurie's third. They're not up to date yet with their figures.
Oh, okay. Okay. Genuine apologies there, Jim.
That's all right.
You're here with your great mate, Andrew Simons, Roy, another great North Queenslander. Both working hard champion. With the Bulls Masters, mate. Do a great job, you guys, and what you've put back into our game, which we'll touch on shortly.
Yep.
Australian wicketkeeper, the great James Maher, keeping behind the stumps for Great Australia. You were quite versatile back in the day, not just a handy top order bat fieldsman.
I'd have said more of a stopper, mate, than a keeper, but it was just to give Gilly a break at the time, but I really enjoyed it. It was good to get in there, get your hands dirty, and have a bit of fun. And I used to wind them all up and saying, "How come it's not that hard?" I haven't got no drop catches, no buys, and no missed stumping. So how hard is it? It's pretty easy.
Got a picture here. I'm pretty sure he scored 100 this day. You're on tour of the West Indies. It was a tour game.
That's right, yeah. Yep. I was my only game for Australia in white clothes in the Test tour of the West Indies in 2003.
I used to argue many times over a beer, Jimmy, why he didn't get to play Test cricket for Australia. And the old man used to say to me, he's close. He's just, at the time, like you touched on it before, there was a lot of depth and a lot of good players at the time. Unfortunately, you just didn't get that baggy green cap. But one thing you did do was make your one-day debut. Back in 98, I believe it was, against the Kiwis.
Yep, that's right, the SCG.
I think you went on to play about 30 one-day internationals. Is that right, mate?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, then not long after that, we played a few games there, and then because Mark Waugh was out, and then I came back about 3 years later. And went on 2002 went to South Africa, and then the next year after that we obviously had the World Cup there. So had probably a good run of 3 or 4 years there of one-day cricket and going a lot of tours and stuff. But as you say, like there was a hell of a lot of good players in our squads, and for that matter, there was a lot of players that weren't in those squads that were still back at home and didn't get that chance, And that was just the way that the competition was at the time. It was hard yakka to get into that top team, but that's what you want. You want good competition for spots, and I don't have any regrets. I played hard, played fair, played a lot of cricket, and loved every minute of it. And you at the time when you're scoring runs, if the opportunity doesn't come up, it doesn't come up. There's nothing you can do about it. So certainly no bitter or hard feelings from my end. I had an absolute ball and feel lucky that I could play.
This picture here, Jim, was this your final game for Queensland, mate? Was that against South Australia?
Yeah, the one down the bottom. Yep. Yeah. The one above it was the Shield final against Victoria, where we scored 6 for 900.
That's the record score too. Yep.
Yeah, and that was my highest score in first class cricket, 223. And down the bottom after that was the last one was the last game against South Australia, Adelaide Oval. It was also Michael Kastrovich's last game.
Yep.
And Jason Gillespie retired not long after.
Yeah, three of the best, mate. Three of the best. So, Jimmy, let's touch on 2003 World Cup in South Africa, mate. How good. Little country boy from Babinda, grew up down in Babinda, stole a few pies in his day from the bakery. As Kevy says, the best bakery in North Queensland. Make your way out of South Africa, fulfill a boy's dream, really, playing cricket, isn't it, mate? Just how good. Representing Australia at the World Cup. I remember watching it on TV as a young guy, only 16 years old. Oops, I've lost you, mate. Oh, he's back.
You're right. Low battery.
That's all right, mate. Yeah, how great a moment was that? And I know there was a couple of special people from back home that made the trip over to be with you too. Something you'll never ever forget.
Yeah, that was the year before. 2002, Mum and Dad and Bones came over to South Africa, and mate, that was amazing. Like for them to be there and watch, watch me playing for Australia in another country was just incredible. So, and then a year later, we obviously went back there, and we were there for 2 months. We basically lived in Potchefstroom, which is about 2 hours out of Johannesburg. And it was just that's probably one of the best cricket tours I could ever be on. I mean, we had everything go against us. We lost Shane Warne the night before the first game. Darren Lehman was he was suspended for a racial slur, but in the squad. Michael Bevan was out with with a torn groin or hamstring. Jason Gillespie we lost through the tour. So with all those things happening around us, if you're talking from a betting point of view, we went from $2.40 favourites out the gate to 10, 12 to 1. Even more at some points because we had so many players out. But even with all that, we never lost a game. From that point, from the start to the end of that tournament, we went through undefeated as World Cup champions. Now, when you consider what had happened and gone on, you would have thought there was no chance of that happening. So it was an amazing effort. Ricky Ponting was outstanding in that tour as captain. How he handled everything with all the setbacks that we had was just fantastic, mate. And all the players just chipped in at the right times. We had a really good work ethic as a team, but shit, we had a lot of fun, Spiller. I mean, with a World Cup, in between games, you've got a fair bit of downtime, so you do train hard and all that sort of stuff. But we still had made sure you had time to make sure you're playing golf and looking after each other, and really bonding well as a team. And the players just really embraced that, and that was a big part of us going on and winning that World Cup against India.
What about, I heard a little whisper, Bonesy and the Great Warrie, they put a few cans on the way over to South Africa. Is it true they beat David Boone's record, or they were very, very close?
Well, I reckon the Wok Dad might have had a crack at it, but I don't know if Boney would have kept up with him with them skinny little legs of his. But, yeah, mate, I reckon that would have been I don't know how they would have survived that long without a durry for all that time on the plane. But yeah, it was amazing having them over there. It was just it was really surreal to think you're in the middle of Johannesburg or Durban or something like that, Cape Town, and here they are. It was crazy.
Let's talk Bulls Masters, Jim. I know you're the big chief kahuna there, and you do a fantastic job, mate. You give so much back to the game of Queensland cricket. You really do, mate. We got the Bulls Country Challenge there, which I've been fortunate to be part of as a manager. It's been fantastic. I reckon it's the best thing for country cricket. Talk about your role with the Bulls Masters and what you and your great mates, because I know Roy and the Big Mocker, the Healy boys, big part of it. I think it's fantastic, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's just about, mate, we all had that opportunity through regional cricket, so we take it on ourselves to go and put that back into the country and try and help out as much as we can, like whether it's Roy, Ian Healy, Mocker, Matty Hayden, Martin Love, we've all come from the bush, Andy Bickle. And you can go back years before that. There's so many people come from country Queensland that, it's a really important part of our game, and we just want to get out there. And things are different now than when we grew up as kids too. Mums are working now, whereas back when I was growing up, although my mother did, but not many mothers in those days worked. It was always the old man out there. So you had more volunteers, scorers, that sort of stuff. These days it's a lot harder. So we think it's important to get back to the bush and try and help them raise some money. Put a smile on people's faces, encourage kids to play cricket, both, male and female, because the women's game's going really well at the moment, and there's a lot of good young girls that are coming up through
Certainly
regional
are, mate.
Queensland as well. So, mate, yeah, we just love what we do, and I suppose it's about putting back into help out regional centres, that because we all had that same help and had a lot of volunteers that gave a lot of their time to be, scoring, packing lunches, cooking hot dogs, throwing balls in the nets, coaching, all the umpiring, all that sort of stuff. Without those people, you don't have a game. And if you don't have that sort of stuff, you don't get people to come through those channels and then go and play on for Queensland or Australia. It doesn't happen.
What about when you're growing up and obviously coming through the grades, mate? Who's good influences on you? Who's been a great mentor for you over the years, or someone that helped you get through?
And I had a heap in up there. Like Warren Pitt was a good mentor. Gary Werder was a good coach at the time. Mate, I was very lucky. Clive Scarrett coached my first ever. He was the coach when I first got my first 100 in under 12s. Harvey Blanche, guys like that. They were always in and around. Chris Lord,
Yep.
And I've probably forgotten 10 of them, but there's just a lot of people. But certainly Clive Scarrett was probably the one at the time that shaped everything, and being my first coach. And definitely the cricket coaching clinics we had with Warren Pitt, who coordinated them at Gordonvale, and Gary Werder and people like that. Mate, Harvey Blanche, they were just sensational. Like so much fun, and we learned a lot about cricket from those people.
Certainly did, mate. And what about in your playing days? You got to play with some of all-time greats, let me say, and against some of the all-time greats. Who was the best cricketer you ever played against?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, but I mean, Shane Warne's just an absolute superstar. Great. I'd much rather have him in our team than against, but I played against him a fair bit for Queensland against Victoria, but he was just an amazing player that could spin a game in no time. But probably as an international, the few times that I faced Wasim Akram, he was just unbelievable. Really hard work. Muralitharan was amazing. Very difficult to read. But mate, from our point, from Australia, people don't often talk about our guys, but Ricky Ponting was a superstar. Gilchrist, Matthew Hayden, they're just wonderful. Ian Healy, they're just wonderful players. AB, Roy, and I could go on. I could name 50, and I'd be still leaving people out. But all those guys, I just love playing cricket with. Was just sensational. As hard as the games we had against New South Wales, and that the War Boys were great to play against, great competitors. You have great stoushes with them, but you always have a beer after the game, and talk other things. So, mate, it was just a really good era. So many good players that I enjoyed. I enjoyed playing with. Sometimes I enjoyed playing against, particularly if we got them out early, or we could slap a few of them around. But no, it was a lot of fun.
Do you have one cricketing story you could share with us, mate, with the boys, where you have a good time?
Oh, mate, there's so many of them. I mean, just, I can't really narrow one down. I mean, after winning the World Cup final in South Africa, going up to the top of, Table Mountain and singing, underneath the Southern Cross, and having the national anthem, bellowing that out, you don't get any more better, sense of pride and I suppose proudness to be an Australian, to represent your country, and to win a World Cup, and that was a huge moment. But all the Shield wins, anytime you're singing a team song in a dressing room, it's a good feeling. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a club final, a Sheffield Shield final, a World Cup, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I've just started playing sixth grade again, would you believe it, my young fella? So that's been something I really enjoyed, and we won the comp the other day. So
how good, mate.
All
how
those
good.
things, they all make you feel good, and you sort of work hard towards a common goal. So you don't sort of you don't ever really say one's better than the other, but if you're singing at the top of your voice and you're chanting out your team song or your national anthem, it's pretty good feeling.
Certainly is, mate. Now let's talk a little bit of footy, mate. We're nearly there. I know you're a mad Bulldogs fan. Big supporter of Terry Lamb, I believe, weren't you?
Yeah, mate, he was my favourite player growing up. And it's funny, a lot of people say, oh, how can you go for the Bulldogs? And it's quite simple. When I was, 8 years old, and You know, there was no Cowboys, no Broncos, no Titans, no other Queensland teams in the comp. You know, I was going for Wynnum or Valleys back in them days, and there was 2 different competitions. But the Bulldogs were always playing Parramatta in the grand finals, and a lot of people that I was surrounded by were all going for Parramatta, and the Bulldogs were the massive underdogs most of the time.
Oh, the
And then
entertainers, mate.
Well, they were, and I stuck with them. I stuck with them all through that, and then not long after, sort of when I came to Brisbane, all that sort of time, and in the early '90s and mid '90s, most of the Bulldog blokes were Queenslanders. You know, you had Steve Price, Travis Norton, Jason Smith, Darren Smith, Jason Hetherington. You know, you had 6 or 7 guys that were Queenslanders in the Bulldogs team. So, I couldn't change. You know, I'd been going for them since I was a kid. I loved watching them. We had a great late '80s. You know, won a premiership in '95. Then had not a horrible run. We lost the grand final a couple of years later, and then we had a bit of a bad run of outs, and then we won in 2004, and it's been lean pickings ever since. But mate, I just can't change teams. I love them to death. I do have a big soft spot for the Cowboys. I'm, good mates with Greeny and obviously JT. The Bulldogs taught him everything he knows. So I've always liked the Cowboys as well. So I go for the Bulldogs in every game of the year. But if the Bulldogs aren't playing, I'm going for the Cowboys.
Well, mate, I really thank you tonight for giving up your time. Any time that you give up away from your family speaks highly of, mate, how great a man you are. I know you've got a beautiful family there, and the whole of far North Queensland will be watching this, mate. So we absolutely love you. You're a cricket legend in our state, I believe. Number 1, mate. Number 1. I'll find a poster one day. I think you signed it. I still remember. You're only 3 or 4 years older than me, but I just absolutely idolised you, mate. And I'm very honoured to interview you tonight, Jim, and just have a chat to you about your story, mate. Look forward to seeing you at the Bulls Country Challenge, Bulls Masters, doing fantastic stuff. Keep doing what you're doing, brother, and absolutely love what you're doing, giving back to the game.
No worries, Bill. I go to everyone up there in far North Queensland. It's still God's country.
Always is. Thanks again, Jim. Really appreciate it.
See you, mate.